Laverton, here we come. Laverton is about an hour and a quarter drive from Leonora, and it's known fondly as the Great Beyond for a reason. Here's some interesting facts about Laverton for you. Yes, at first glance, Laverton is a small outback town, but this shire is actually made up of more than 180,000 square kilometres, and Laverton is the westernmost town on the Outback Way, a 2,700 kilometre drive through the middle of Australia in that direction, ironically known as Australia's longest shortcut. And this is a town and a region with a rich Aboriginal and European history. Laverton town is a small community, and it is certainly well worth a sleepover when travelling through the region. Historic buildings continue to stand, giving a true indication of where Laverton has come from. First stop when anyone arrives is the Great Beyond Visitor Centre, and does this place have a story or two to tell?
Nothing could drag me out there again. A few years later, I was down on my luck.
Home to the very impressive Explorers Hall of Fame, you're able to see how it really was for the pioneers of these lands, who did it really tough in the early days of the mid to late 1900s. These people were real heroes, and they tell their own stories of bravery and perseverance through some harsh conditions. Since opening up these new premises in July 2022, the response from travellers has been phenomenal. And the Shire is pretty proud of it too, and they've got every reason to be, because what they've done is just awesome. State-of-the-art technology brings these stories to life, paying tribute to not only the explorers who put Laverton on the map, but also the pioneers and women of the same era.
They told us that there are only horses' remains and no guns or men's bones in the direction we're heading. So I've decided to steer towards a spot Jemmy called Noondi, where he says he saw the site where the white men had perished over 20 years ago.
It were no accident. The Almighty saved us.
Hear, hear.
How cool is this?
What I found was that out there, we're all at the mercy of water.
It all started back in 1897. I was riding through from Alice Springs to Kalgoorlie when somewhere south of the MacDonnell Ranges, I found a gold reef. 10 miles of white quartz, riddled with nuggets thick as plums in a pudding.
As well as having a reputation for making the best coffee in town, something I can personally vouch for, the Visitor Centre also has an extensive gift shop with some fantastic products that are made locally right here in Laverton, as well as trail guides and maps. But if you're looking for more information on the early explorers that travelled these lands more than a century ago, there's also books like this on explorer Frank Hahn. And next on the agenda, we're going to give you a first-hand look at part of his epic journey. The lands out here, thousands and thousands of k's of rugged landscapes. And when the early pioneers and explorers came through here, the conditions they had to experience would have been brutal. Nowadays, it's a bit easier for us to take in this magnificent country with dedicated trails and road trip adventures aplenty. It really is beautiful out this way. Now, I don't want to confuse you, but this Hans right here is about to get on the track where explorer Frank Hahn, remember I mentioned him earlier, travelled more of Western Australia than any other explorer ever did. It is going to get confusing, Hans on the Hahn track, but either way, I'm going to do it with someone who has plenty of inside knowledge of this part of the world. An 1840s born Englishman, Hahn travelled to Australia as a child. However, he didn't end up in Laverton until 1902, where he decided to take up residence in the town. Stay with us because we've got more on Frank Hahn's journey on the Hahn's track right after the break. Hahn was in his 50s when he started exploring the country around Laverton, and with the help of his Aboriginal guide Talbot, he twice crossed the Great Victoria Desert to Oodnadatta and back, some 2,400 kilometres. Along the way, he pegged particular landmarks, named after some of the people and friends he had met during his adventures, marking trees along the way. So, Lorinda, this right here is where Frank Hahn called home for a bit.
That's it, this is Hahn's camp. This is where he based himself between expeditions. It was close enough to Laverton to go in and get supplies. It was far enough out of town to have some solitude. He sunk a well and he had a really good water supply.
How did he get around?
Mostly horses, but he also had camels for his bigger expeditions.
Yeah, right. What a fantastic way to live.
Amazing, what a great way to live.
So Frank would have seen some pretty challenging terrain as he explored, but when you get to a place like this, it's almost all worth it, isn't it?
It is, it's amazing. So we're only about 40 k's from Laverton. It's one of first of many sites along Hahn's track that takes you to some breathtaking landscapes. The further you get out, the more the landscape changes and the desert beauty just comes to life. Yeah, it's very unique.
What Hahn did find during his expeditions was widely considered to have little economic value, but he found a great love for the wilderness. Frank Hahn died in 1921 and will forever be recognised as the last of the Australian explorers. You can now drive this loop trail yourself via four-wheel drive, a 1,250 kilometre trek starting and finishing in Laverton. As I touched on earlier, those explorers that made Laverton what it is today many years ago wouldn't have been able to do what they did, let alone survive, if it wasn't for the knowledge and guidance of their Aboriginal trackers. We're going to do a little more exploration as we head out of Laverton onto the Anbadell Highway and get an insight into just how important those Aboriginal trackers were to those early expeditions.
This is one of the significant area for us. It means a lot.
How important were rock holes and places like this on those early expeditions?
Very important because everybody relied on the water, because in summer it gets very, very hot and dry, and the main places where the water laid were the number holes, they call them number holes. So it was very important for everybody.
So Janice, we're up a little bit higher, nice view around here. Tell me about this site.
This site here called Penican Hill. This way old Penican Grey, Aboriginal trekker, came here with the police. He was working with the police, and this where he used to come and sit there and wait for the people coming through to Laverton, and they'd hide away here in this location, and they'd sit there and wait. He was like an informant, and he point at people who were wanted by the police. So he'll point them out, make the job easier for the police. Yeah, this is special country because this is home to me. I can't see myself living anywhere, and I've lived here nearly most of my life. And yeah, it is a beautiful country. This is home.
We've only covered a couple of trails on this trip, but there are still a few out of Laverton that are well worth taking a look at. The Anbadell Highway, the famous Gun Barrel Highway, and the Golden Quest Discovery Trail. Get amongst it because it is unreal out here. The great beyond, and how great it is. If you're looking for new destinations for your next road trip, then the Northern Goldfields has got to go to the top of your list. We are truly blessed with some spectacular road trip options, and Leonora and Laverton cannot be missed. The countryside, the stories, the communities, and of course the people are what make this such a special part of Western Australia. But that's it. We have to call time on our Northern Goldfields adventure. Thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget, you can always stay up to date with everything to do with the series on our socials. Until next time, bye for now. And if you're road tripping, drive safe.